Right now, I'm so excited and honored to be introducing these two remarkable gentlemen. Ray Halbritter, Oneida Nation Representative, CEO, Oneida Nation Enterprises, has been an EMA board member since 2003. He has taught me everything about the beautiful Native American culture and its 7-generation ethic. Ray has been my teacher, my friend, and my family. Dale Ross is the most, sorry Ben, is the most interesting Republican mayor I feel safe to say in our entire country. We met him on screen with Al Gore, James Redford, Mike Bloomberg, and we all fell in love with his out-of-the-box views as he ushered in his city to be 100% renewable energy. Please welcome Ray and Mayor Dale.
Hey, Debbie. Hey, so good to see you. Where do you want us to sit?
Thank you. How are you?
Okay.
Good. Well, I'm going to be moderating. I think maybe I'll sit over on the couch,
All right.
Okay.
and we can ask these amazing gentlemen some questions.
LA, how are you? How many Republicans out there? Look at y'all. Y'all awful brave. Y'all know we're in Los Angeles, not Lower Alabama, right? You know that, right? Okay. Just checking. We did that in D.C., and there was not one brave soul out of 500 there, okay?
This is LA. We're very honest about how we
Honesty's a good thing.
Honesty's a good thing. You know what? Mayor Dale, I would love for you to talk just a little bit about why you're here.
Well, because there's cameras here, and I love cameras. We're here. We're spreading the gospel of Georgetown. What we did in Georgetown by going to 100% renewable with wind and solar, we had two goals. We had one, we wanted to mitigate short-term volatility with pricing in the market. We also wanted to eliminate or mitigate, not eliminate, regulatory and governmental risk, because the knuckleheads in D.C. can screw up a good deal for you if you let them, okay? And so what we're able to do, 20 and 25-year contracts, no cost escalating. We know what we're going to pay per kilowatt hour in 2041. And so we have cost certainty, and that takes care of the people that elected us to serve their best interests.
Thank you. And Ray as well.
Well, Native people have been sort of introduced to America through the Hollywood industry, and EMA has very smartly joined with high-placed celebrities to try to tell people about the environmental issues we face as a country. For Native people, environmentalism is not just a cause, it's a way of life. It's something that we grew up with, something that we endeavor to teach our children, because we're told by our culture to make decisions considering its effect onto the 7th generation to the future, which is in fact our children. So this is it's a wonderful group. Debbie, you've done an incredible job with the years you've spent building EMA up to be the organization it is, and sending the message out that something that our people have lived for generations. So this is all about the future generations. It's all about preparing and looking toward the future that our children are going to have.
Thank you. Very true. I have a few questions here, and just sort of want to be, off screen here, so to speak. But you're both leaders in entrepreneurial thinking. You're way out of the box for what your communities have done in the past. How did this shift come about, and how does the commitment to the environment and sustainability conflict or actually correspond with your business goals?
Well,
Ray, why don't you start with that?
We sort of reject the notion that environmentalism and business opportunity are in conflict. That actually it does make good business sense. It makes good business sense for us. Some of the projects we've done for example, we needed water. We have a resort. We had some golf courses. We needed irrigable water. And we were able to make we negotiated with the city of Oneida to have their tertiary treated water become our source of irrigation. So it helped them reduce the emissions that they were allowed in the local environment. At the same time, helped us with an irrigable water supply for our courses. So it was a really good outcome, and it worked well, and our business was doing better, and the environment was also benefited by that agreement. So these things can happen between business and environmentalism, and I think the idea that they somehow are in conflict really isn't what it used to be, and it's developing better, I think, every year.
It's interesting that that's even a revolutionary idea.
Well, I don't know if it's revolutionary, but I do think that historically business resented anyone trying to tell them what to do or imposing some concept on them that was going to cost them money. But I think as we begin to understand the environment and what we need to do and look toward the future and what have a longer term thinking about what we do, I think it just becomes really good common sense. Just what the mayor has done with his community is just remarkable and amazing.
I agree. And so it's the same question is, how does the environment and sustainability conflict or correspond with your business goals for your city?
No, really didn't. It's kind of an interesting story. You know, in 2010, we own our own utility, so we can make some decisions virtually unilaterally. 2010, we decided we wanted 30% of our energy portfolio to be renewables, and our energy provider would not do that. So in 2014, we broke a contract, and we had to write a big check to get out of that contract. But the savings that we're going to generate from that is going, it's 100-fold over what we had to pay. And so this was the deal. Originally they thought that a bunch of environmental zealots took over our city council because here, we're in a red town, in a red county, in one of the redder states, Texas, which is also, the birthplace to like oil and gas businesses, okay? So this was kind of revolutionary back in the day, and we made it happen. And the argument was this was just a business decision, like any other business decision you're making. You want to make a good deal. We made a great deal, and we were the first ones. And we took a lot of risk, and I had to give a lot of speeches, had to go to a lot of neighborhood associations and explain our decision. And I explained to them that we have cost certainty for 20 and 25 years. And so then what happens is we found out if you win the economic argument, by default, you're going to win the environmental argument. And that's what we've done. And back then, I know a lot more in the last 3 years than I did when we went into this, because I've got a lot of good people, not only in the United States, but across the world, giving us all kinds of great information. We are a city of innovation. We have a high school. We have 2 high schools, and they built their first plane 2 years ago, and in 2 years they're going to build the first electric plane. And the city of Georgetown is a huge sponsor because we have our own airport. You may have heard of it, Georgetown International, just north of Austin. So, and Austin is a great suburb of ours. We love them. They have all the amenities that we need. We can go visit, and then we come back to our normal world in 30 minutes. But that's really how the deal came about in the city of Georgetown. And so now we've won on the economic battlefield, environmental battlefield. We're working on, composting now. So composting, we had a festival in April, and it was 70% zero waste. Eventually, we're going to get to in the high 90s on that. So here's this little bitty city, can-do attitude, and we have all these young brainiacs on staff, and they come up with all these ideas all the time, and they have a mayor that really embraces out-of-the-box thinking, and I think that's what our success is all about, because there is no stupid ideas. Just throw it out there, and we'll talk about it. But we have been able to lead in the country. Others can. The city of Denton, which is north of Dallas, we've been working with those guys. In 2020, they'll be the second city in the state of Texas to be 100% renewable, and they're a city of about 110,000. I will tell you this. We are at a tipping point because the pricing on renewables, whether it's wind or solar, we'll just make up some numbers, say wind is at $18 a megawatt and coal's at $25. Okay, what are you going to buy? We've had 4 coal plants closed in Texas since January 1st, and it's all driven by economics. They're not closing because they're making money. They're closing because they can't compete with wind and solar.
Actually, just to jump in, and this is not on this at all, but it's one of my most passionate issues, and this is for both of you. What do you do about training? You talking about the coal mines closing. What do those people do instead of working there? And Ray, your entire philosophy of the nation is built around education and job creation. Can we just talk a little bit, Ray, can you just jump in and talk a little bit about how you've led your nation to be much more productive in this new economy?
Well, it starts from our cultural beliefs about thinking about the future and our children, and it's a longer sort of process. When we have meetings, we'll open our meetings with an age-old custom of a sort of an opening, we call it, and you go through a Thanksgiving for all the things that you have. And there's a part of it that tells you that when you're considering in your deliberations, they say you take a gull wing and sweep the council house clean from every creepy crawly creature. And what that really means is that it wants you to free your mind of all the personal issues, any kind of problems you may have, and put your mind together. And they call it the power of the good mind. You put your mind together and you have this power of the good mind to think of the best for your people. So when we do our development, we're always trying to make sure that we follow that. As technology advances and changes, of course, we learn different things. Now we're putting in LED light bulbs. We put in coatings on top of the roof, which wasn't available at the time, but it reduces the kind of heat loss, helps us keep the air conditioning demands down, and a number of things like that we've been able to do as we go along. But it's never been a sort of a cost-benefit profit sort of scenario. It's always been what's best for the earth, the environment in which we live.
You know, when it comes to coal, people have been lying ever since President Reagan all the way through the current president. Each of them have told us that the coal jobs are coming back. That's a lie. We're going to have clean coal. That's a lie. There's 230,000 roughly coal jobs today. This is the peak. It's not going to be any more because you can't compete. So I think what you do, the solution is you don't want to throw the folks in the coal business under the truck, right? So this is what you do. It's very similar when tobacco, remember what the federal government did? They did a bunch of new job training programs. Also, the people in the coal industry, since renewables is increasing every year, by double digits, I might add, there's going to be jobs in that industry. You know, Michael Bloomberg did the From the Ashes movie, and they went to West Virginia and filmed. And they actually have renewable energy companies there that are getting some of the coal workers. But it has to be a program where you can't throw the coal industry under the truck. We're in this period of transition right now.
Totally understand.
Yeah, and the coal industry is not going, it's not going to increase, okay? You're going to have plants that keep getting shuttered and shuttered and shuttered because they're not going to be able to compete in the open market. Although the federal government is still trying to make it an unequal playing field, because in the state of Texas, our legislature is trying to make it unequal too. And so, because you got to follow the money. Where's the money going? Lobbyists and donors want to contribute to fossil fuel, right? Because I tell you what, renewable energy can win on a level playing field, and there is no future for coal. And I mean, if you can't take the truth, I mean, don't listen to me, okay?
Are you guys training?
By the way, the largest coal energy producing company in the world is just closed. It's Nanticoke in Canada.
Wow.
And it's being converted into a solar farm.
Oh my God, well that's amazing news. Yeah. That's amazing news. And my question always is, are there training facilities to teach people who were working in fossil fuels new technology? Because without that, we're leaving families without an income, and we're not paying attention to the next generation. So I think that that's something that should be top of mind when we're doing this transition.
Well, for us, the business is we put about $1 billion into the ground with our development facilities. And with all of the new technology that we're approached with regularly, there are new aspects to it that their energy There's waste issues that, because it's becoming a larger and larger issue, there's solar issues. We've been approached by companies who want to build solar farms, and we understand, and one of the things we were sort of heard about was the large wind inventory in the Central Plains. So one of our goals is to potentially help assist with some of that development. As far as the training and that, a lot of the companies now are getting more into this issue, and as they come and present proposals, we learn as well about the new developments that are there, and science is just amazing.
But, with the wind and solar, this is just an alternative to fossil fuels, because you're still going to need fossil fuels to a certain extent because of the unequal demand each day. And so, the sun doesn't shine at night, so we have these peaks and valleys. But in our situation, we're actually more than 100% because we have contracted with more. And when we have more green energy on a particular day, we sell it back to the grid, and somebody down those transmission lines is getting our green energy that we bought. And now they're going to pay us today's market price for the energy we just sold them.
Well, speaking of that, it makes sense. Like the Oneida Nation is a sovereign government, but you work with all levels of the American government. And in terms of both of your role modeling, have you, first Ray and then Dale, have you worked with any other parts of the government, of the American government, that have been a successful collaboration to think along the same lines?
Yes, as one of the 3 existing sovereigns in the country, federal government, the state government, Indian nations, we do work, and we prize and hold our sovereignty sacred. It allows us to have certain negotiating ability with the other governments, and we do that. We recently negotiated with the Department of Energy. At least we entered into a relationship to help with one of our power generating plants that we have, to use some of the waste steam into helping with more energy generation. So it was a successful relationship. And with Native people, their relationships have always been strained through the years for many different reasons, mostly because they're confined to areas that don't allow them to do some of the things they want to do, and some of the resources have been lost, and so sometimes it's not always easy for them to find ways to cooperate, or they're usually defending themselves or trying to protect what they have. But I think we're coming to a different time. 5 years ago, we negotiated an agreement with the state of New York that solved all of our outstanding disputes as an Indian nations, which was really not ever been done in this country. So it really helped pave the environment for collaboration, and there's nothing like collaboration. You can still achieve things in conflict, but when you're able to create a relationship, it's so much more productive and better for your community to have this collaboration where you can move things forward together.
Right.
Well, our strategy included having a strategy that didn't involve federal intervention in what we wanted to do. And the biggest test was when President Trump pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. That did nothing to our strategy. The federal government, unless they start really putting some heavy taxation on windmills and solar panels, they're sort of irrelevant in our strategy, and that's what we.
That's comforting.
Yeah, well, we wanted it so that we didn't have these risks out there, and our strategy has eliminated the federal risk. We still have state risk to a certain extent because they can make it more expensive to produce and supply renewable and sustain. And people keep on forgetting it's sustainable too, because eventually in X number of years the Earth will no longer have any fossil fuels, but in West Texas and in North Texas, the sun's still going to be shining, and the wind's still going to be blowing, and we're still going to be producing electricity. In fact, I'll make this prediction: in 2045, 80% of the United States is going to be powered by renewable energy, because we're at a tipping point right now. It's all going to be based on economics, and these other fossil fuels, whether you're natural gas is somewhere around $21 a megawatt. Eventually, they're not going to be able to compete with solar and you got solar and wind, and even on the West Coast in Oregon and Washington, you got hydro, which is fairly inexpensive to produce.
As a Republican in elected office, how can you tell that story so that it's not an emotional, environmental progressive agenda, and it's really economics.
Yeah, I'm a CPA during the day, and so we have a lot of people on staff a lot smarter than I am. But to tell the story is it's a long-term strategy that's going to save you tax money. If you're going to save money if you live in Georgetown, okay? And most of the people make decisions based on self-interest.
Yes.
So if I'm telling them that they're going to save money, and they're believing it, and sometimes it takes a lot longer to convince them that I'm actually going to save them money, because this is too good of a deal. How can you possibly be doing this? Now, remember, we were one of the first ones in, and sometimes when you're the first one in, you get the best deal. And now the bad thing, and again, the federales there, the problem is in 2020, the renewable energy tax credits expire, but all the fossil fuel credits are still going to be out there.
How do we fix that?
Yeah, you need to talk to your congressional leaders in the House and in the Senate that are actually getting a lot of donations by the fossil fuel industry.
Right. And in terms of, just kind of speaking about that, Ray, the Native American enterprises, they approach environmental issues way differently than the rest of I would say the rest of the other countries in the globe, because I think there's always that emotional connection that and your tradition and the respect for 7 generations that guides you. How does that align with the business of really running a nation?
Well, it's helpful to have sort of, if you will, the spiritual sort of cultural background when you think about development. And when we first thought about development, it came out of a tragedy for us when a fire department refused to answer a call where my aunt and uncle burned to death. So we tried to figure a way to make money to help create an economy, actually for fire protection. That actually grew into what is now the gaming industry in America. And it's a $30 billion industry now. So it's, out of a tragedy, something, if you will, positive occurred where Native people now have resources. And when they look at, I don't speak for all Native people, but they all come from a cultural place and a spiritual place where they want to put their children's welfare and future before their own. And so when they develop and they think about development, they're thinking from that perspective. And that really helps you make the kinds of decisions you make and not just relegate them simply to a cost-benefit analysis. So that really has helped and made it easier to develop the way we want to develop, the way we want our children to benefit from as we develop our communities.
Right, it makes so much sense. And for you there, I feel like, Dale, you came at it as cost-effective and as economic. However, you have now been hanging out with some really good people. You're hanging out with Al Gore and Jamie Redford and Bloomberg. What has that done to your sense of mission?
Well, first of all, they're all really wonderful folks that are very passionate about what they believe in, and they're working very, very hard. And with respect to Vice President Gore, I do believe that he does more good in one day than his critics have done in their entire life. And the same thing with Robert Redford, the same thing with Jamie and his dad, and then Vice President Gore. And Michael Bloomberg is just, a prince among men. Georgetown was one of 35 cities recently that was awarded a $100,000 grant. And what we're going to do is now we're competing. There's going to be 4 $1 million grants and 1 $5 million grants. This is our idea, because in Georgetown we always say, what if? And so the little brainiacs that we have over in the utility department came up with this virtual solar power plant. And so this is the concept, and this is what we're testing. And Bloomberg, we sent our 4 people up to New York and Bloomberg's people train you and give you.
Bloomberg's people are here, by the way. We're all.
Oh man, God bless you, Catherine Oliver.
America's pledge.
Oh man, I'm telling you, Catherine Oliver at Bloomberg is just. She's a rock star.
Yeah.
And so this is what we're going to do. What if we the city, we put solar panels on your roof for no charge, and then we just get the electricity that we get to sell. And what this would do also, if that takes care of 50% of our needs, then the risks that I kept talking about with the state regs and the federal regs, what if we eliminate 50% of our need for the electricity on the grid? And then we're even having more control over our city. And so that's what we're working on right now. But with those folks, I tell you what, I've learned a lot. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, I just knew how to make a deal. And now it's more about that. But one of the things that's happened with this, with 3 movies and then all the publicity, it's generated over $20 million worth of free advertising for the city of Georgetown. And in the last 3 years, we've been the second, first, and fifth fastest growing city. Now, some of the people say cut out the interviewing, because every time you do an interview, more and more people come, they want to come move there. And we don't want them to move here. We like it just the way it is, And
So for our last question, we have a minute or so left, and I think that you both have enormous and very, very unique voices, and that's what we're talking about today and always. What do you think your voice for a sustainable economy and a green economy can do beyond where you are, where you live, and what your community is? Having that international voice for the Native Americans has been so important for the Oneida Nation.
Yes, it has, and I think that's why the kind of organization that you develop here and the incredible job the mayor's doing, it brings us together in a way that we can collectively add our voice to this a larger initiative for the world we live in, our Mother Earth, the sacred Mother Earth that we have. So for me, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to come and speak and join and become part of a larger movement that will change the world.
I agree. Mayor?
Well, I think it puts to rest the notion that renewable, green, sustainable energy is more expensive than fossil fuels. That's totally false. And I think that was one of the big hurdles, because again, if you win the economic argument, what else is there left? Because by default, you're going to win the environmental argument. And so I know that we're running short on time. If the mayor of Beverly Hills, if you see a spike in your sales tax this month, you need to thank Mrs. Ross. She discovered Rodeo Drive. And so we are going to have to go back home tomorrow because the credit cards are about maxed out.
Thank you both so much.
Thank y'all.